Today is the second day of this January 1984 7-day retreat. Today we will work on a koan taken from the Hikikan Roku. It's number 87. It's a combination of translations. The title is Medicine and Disease Cure Each Other. Yunmen is a Zen teacher, I believe the 8th century in China. Yunmen, teaching his community, said, "Medicine and disease cure each other. The whole earth is medicine. What is yourself?" Disease and medicine cure each other. The whole earth is medicine. What is yourself? Having been home for a few weeks during the off period, there was ample chance every day to listen to a news program, sometimes in short fragments and some of them more in depth. Recalling the scenes, one would say the whole earth is disease. And see if from there we can get to the whole earth is medicine. And then, what am I? Or who am I? What is the me? One of the most frequent scenes in the newscasts, both in the short ones and the in-depth treatment, is the Middle East, where one knows not how many factions are at war with each other. Brutal, uncompromising war. One commentator remarked, and one almost discerned his personal puzzlement over it. It didn't just seem to be a glib remark. How is it that in this area, in which the three largest, or this is I think how he put it, world religions were born, there is this state of affairs, man killing man. Man here standing for man and woman and children. maybe the belonging to organizations, whether they be religious or ideological, is not unrelated to this bitter conflict and strife, which seems so utterly unresolvable, given the states of minds that rule and are being nourished. Muslims shooting at the Christians and the Christians shooting at the Muslims. For the time being, seems to be some communality of interest between the Israelis and the Christians. And yet there is this great desire, and it's already in progress, the settlement of the West, of the so-called West Bank, and one heard the religious fervor, the sincere religious fervor of the people who are settling it in a real spirit of being pioneers there, putting up with all kinds of hardships to settle this land which is ours, given to us by God. But there are other people who claim it's theirs, given to them by long tradition. And then wedging into the religious contention. Is this division Arabs versus the rest of the inhabitants? That time it wasn't mentioned we're all Muslims, we're all Arabs. Nationality, race, religion, ideology, in constant, irreconcilable conflict with each other. The adherents, sometimes more than willing to die for it, more than willing to face sure death in an attack, as one is told, for later rewards in heaven, in an afterlife. Everywhere on all sides, symbols, either religious symbols, large pictures of the leaders, or flags, brandished, flown, or burnt. And here and there, scenes of weeping women, dead children or wounded children. The men are given heroic burials. Another scene frequently coming up is Salvador, El Salvador. People in squalor and poverty finding spokespeople, rebels, terrorists, whatever they're called, to advance their cause, maybe just to advance their own cause, to gain power over a government that tries to suppress, intimidate. So do the terrorists. And then these scenes of the countryside of people, often in utter bewilderment. Who's still to believe? The man one shelters tonight may assassinate one tomorrow, or one may be given reprisal for having sheltered a rebel, be exterminated for it. And then in a great big modern building someplace in a neutral country in Europe, two secretaries of state meeting to discuss what? It's amazing. On the day before and during all the speculations of what may come out of this, will the Russians accommodate or will they compromise, and how can they? These two people are talking what they have to talk, talking their sides. What would have happened if both of them had sat together and had said, let's discuss what is the cause of conflict? Not your conflict or our conflict, but what's the cause of conflict? Only if we can grapple with this and understand this will we be able to come together and work something out. Coming back down from their planes in their home country, I think neither of them would have continued to be a Secretary of State. You don't need people like that. And nowhere, a lot of discussions, nowhere did the question even come up as a relevant question. Why are we in conflict? Without finger pointing, just to inquire into this enormous world terrorizing and world destroying phenomenon of conflict. Human conflict. It's on no agenda. A physician, if he is to treat a disease, and he has some time and some funds and a burning, passionate interest, will not just cure symptoms, but will inquire about the cause of this disease, understanding full well that unless the cause is understood and seen and bared, one will forever treat changing symptoms. Changing because the symptoms you treat today may be subdued, but new ones will appear tomorrow instead. And to understand the cause of a disease, the research needs to be very narrow and specific and very wide, because it's not only viruses, germs, chemicals, but it's the way we live. Quite sure cancer, heart disease is linked with the way we live from day to day in our environment and with each other. So who is going to do this for us? It's not being done. It's not being done on the outside, political, social level. Where is our laboratory in which we can experiment and devote our life, our whole life, to finding the cause and maybe the ending of conflict. Because no matter how much you analyze academically, scholarly, the forces of economics and social this and that, history, look at these scenes. These are human beings who fire and who die, and who swing the flag, who shout, raise the fist, and perish, or stand there in utter shock and confusion. It's individual human beings who are the carriers of war, and maybe it is in us ourselves that it takes its start, that it germinates, that it can be observed carefully. Sometimes people coming to retreat find themselves in a state where they wonder why they're here. What am I doing this for? Things are relatively calm or relatively boring. What one has expected to happen isn't happening, and one hears to boot that not to reach out for utopian goals. Well, that's what I came for, to get this thing called liberation, emancipation, samadhi, kensho, enlightenment. And if you say, don't reach for that, then what am I here for? I don't know whether I do say don't reach for it, but look at the reaching and what it does to the body-mind. Examine it, find out. Not follow what someone who one places into an authority position. The person herself doesn't place herself in that, even though there's an impressive microphone here. Tapes are not made to pound a message into people. I think most people understand that. But maybe a retreat such as this can be this, call it laboratory for a new metaphor, where one looks into the cause of conflict, the cause of division, here in myself, not over there in you or in the Russians, who seem to be so acquisitive. They always want more land. Can I look into acquisitiveness here? Wanting things, people, relationships, power, money, possessions, security. Wanting, which means the energy mobilized to get it, sustained by imagining that which I want in my mind, And in the process, if the wanting is strong and fervent enough, the elbows push others out of the way who want the same thing or the same person. We may not be openly violent or ruthless, but watch it, look at it. Wanting something as sort of a narrowness of, a narrow path of energy is laid out. And to pursue that, because it is narrow, it is goal-directed, like a beam. Therefore I ignore who's left and right of me. I don't do it intentionally. It happens because there's this glowing thing there, the glowing lure of an acquisition. It can be a state, a person. You look at it. But there's much more than that happens, much more than this resultant negligence of who else is around me, who else is affected by my drive toward something, and the actions to get it, and then having it, holding it. So nobody else can get at it, protecting it, or invoking protection. I think we talked about this in the last retreat, how very wealthy citizens in countries are always closely aligned to the presidents of that country, or the powers, because one needs protection for the possessions, for the wealth. And that comes from whoever runs the country and has power to, well, I can't go into the mechanics of it. I don't know them. Other things that happen when I want that is the thoughts, the mind is consumed with thinking of ways to get it, following methods, and always, every once in a while, one has to light up that goal again so that the energies keep coming to get it, and all the while totally absent from what is actually going on here in oneself, and as we mentioned, in the people right next to me, the people with whom I'm working, with whom I'm living, talking. So there's a division between me and the other people, and between me, whatever I am right here, which I ignore, and what I imagine to be, to become, to have in the future. It's conflict. Wanting something very badly, or wanting to keep something very badly, if that is frustrated by other people, for whatever reason, what happens? Usually if energy is there to hold and to get, then this energy turns into anger. lashing out verbally or physically at others who interfere, intimidating, trying to intimidate others. Through this intimidation to get what one wants, get one's ways. Seeing anger or acquisitiveness in others, one can complain about it, feel the victim of it, either on a large scale. We all, to some extent, feel the victims of what's going on in this world, which we don't want to go on, but we feel victimized, we feel quite helpless, and rightly so, because the powers at work are far beyond our reach, so it seems. One woman in Germany last time, we were over there holding a retreat, coming from Berlin, she just broke out crying. Crying partly in anger, as she said, anger and helplessness, feeling the helpless victim of two stupid guys like Reagan and Andropov. She says, it's just a matter of who is more stupid and which way it's going to go. And I can't do a thing about it. If you look at it in this way, it's true. It's totally helpless. Can't influence them. Because they don't know themselves who they are. And really what they're doing, it's all based on eon-old conditioning and history, ideas, lofty ones. Each one has enormously lofty ideas. And underneath, stuff that isn't being looked at, just as we don't look at what's underneath. Our immediate anger at a person. Maybe it's not that person we're angry at all. The person has nothing to do with what happened. We don't look what's underneath. We don't look at anger. Totally. The release of it is gratifying to an extent, and then later we feel regretful. But nothing has changed. It'll come again the next time. For the release and the pleasure of it, and the inevitability of it, because there's no attention. We're in the grip of wanting or fearing or being frustrated. And conflict is sustained and compounds. Is it possible to get to the root of conflict within oneself? It doesn't happen by chance. The question must have been raised once at least. And a really vital interest in looking at it, in understanding it. Not just think, well, how can I resolve it without even understanding what it is? You may say, well, I'm sitting here, there's no conflict. Is that so? Things may get boring or painful. Is one just that boredom and pain? Or is there a me that says, or feels, may not verbalize it. This is boring. Something else would be more interesting. Thinking of more interesting pastimes, wanting them to come back, thinking of past experiences which were exciting, wanting them, all going on in the imagination and not in touch with the sitter in totality, the whole thing, this whole who or moo or what is it, or this entirety of listening and attending, taking nothing for granted, for inborn, for natural, for human nature, but allowing it to be questioned without interfering with it willfully. And anger does come up, fear comes up. If this work proceeds deeply, not abiding in pleasantness or wallowing in sorrow and pain. This I like, this maybe is good for me, or this I want to get rid of, but right there, who, moo, what is it? Not getting stuck in it, not getting stuck. Then things come up, things that have been held down, repressed, kept out of sight and mind for a long time. Nothing spectacular necessarily. Some people have spectacular remembrance of something in childhood. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about raw material, raw stuff, like fear and wanting to hold on, wanting to be something, or having some security, usually in thinking or in labeling. This is this, as one person told me this morning or last night, I don't remember. So habitually labeling something, this is ego, and realizing that this is a cop-out. By labeling this, one doesn't enter into it. One has said this is ego and this is enough. But what is ego when I have no word for it? And it'll open up. Everything is revealed right there. Loneliness and the tremendous yearning for protection, for love, from the outside. Refuge in something. For whom? Who is this me that is so dynamic? To label it. Question it. What is it? What is wanting? What is fearing? And just like shouting into an empty valley, not expecting an answer, just asking. Not putting any conditions on it. If I don't get an answer, then this thing is no good. It won't get me any place like anything else didn't get me any place. There's no place to get. I want to find out why I'm in conflict. Because unless it can be seen here as clear as daylight and resolved in this clarity, there can be no end of conflict in the world. This koan says, get back to it, medicine and disease cure each other. The whole earth is medicine. What is yourself? If you don't know it, what is it? There's a little story here in this book by Cleary, by the brothers Cleary. What this koan is based on, and it says, one day Manjusri ordered Sudana to pick medicinal herbs. He said, if there's something that is not medicine, bring it to me. If there's something that is not medicine, bring it to me. Sudana searched all over, but there was nothing that was not medicine. One wonders about this. He searched all over. How did he search whether something was medicine or not? Maybe all he did was look at it with innocent eyes, open eyes, eyes that were free to look, not bound to anything, not bound to any conviction or idea or goal or name, just looking. Like a little child taking a walk. It doesn't walk very far before it picks up. And look! What I found, and the adult will have to look twice. I'll say, I'll throw that down. This is, what do they say? This is ugh, or this is yucky. Oh, to a little child, there's nothing yucky. Nothing. Unless it's already conditioned by the division of what is yucky and what is not yucky. So here he looked at everything. And everything was beautiful, just what it was. because the looking was what it was. In the looking there was no fear of harm or danger. Unconditioned looking. Is that possible? Unconditioned looking? Which doesn't mean one steps on very thin ice into the lake and drowns. There are times when conditioning has its place and then it functions very adequately. So he went back and told Manjusri, there is nothing that is not medicine. Manjusri said, gather something that is medicine. And Sudana then picked up a blade of grass and handed it to Manjusri. Manjusri held it up and showed it to the assembly, saying, this medicine can kill people and it can also bring people to life. A blade of grass right now is not available. But there's nothing that is not medicine. And we're not just thinking of the beautifully sparkling snow, blue sky and sunshine, playing on the waters. It's not here, inside. Which I don't like, which I want to get rid of. Look for remedies to take so it'll dissolve or heal it. Maybe this not itself is medicine. Which can kill and bring to life. This can be understood that some people who take this will die from it, others will come to life. But we're not understanding it this way. It's the same. Dying and coming to life is the same thing. It's no thing. Not a thing that we can make into an experience, to have, to hold, to keep, to go back to. That's memory. But coming back to a knot of body and mind pain, which is manifested in the body and throbbing in the mind, throbbing with anxiety. Or what am I going to do about it? Disgust, discouragement, despair. This very state, is it medicine? If all yes and no dies away, wanting and running dies away. Mine is not relevant, it's there. And I don't know what it is. Who What is it? Or the spare attention without knowing, without choice. Can there be this dying and coming to life? Beware of making it into a goal, and there's conflict. No goal, just this. What is it?